up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're bringing it back to our Die Hard movie marathon with the second film in the series, Die Hard 2, Die Harder. Now, before I start the review itself, I want to let you all know that this film is the only movie that I know of that had a filming location in my small town. Everybody knows this film as the Die Hard film that takes place at an airport. Well, anytime the movie shows the runway itself, that's my town's airport runway. Makes a lot of sense too, especially if they wanted privacy. My airport is incredibly small and not that populated. In fact, the only planes in and out of it go to Detroit. That's it. Detroit connects them to wherever else the travelers want to go, but yeah, small town, small airport, up north, so if they wanted snow for their Christmas time film, they had a good chance of that too. Anyways, before I get too carried away talking about that, instead of the actual review, let's go ahead and talk about this film, and let's get cracking. Man, I need to stay mindful. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, mindfulness, the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. For example, the entire country is almost never mindful about world events. Die Hard 2, Die Harder brings John McClane back into the folds, and instead of a skyscraper, McClane must save an airport from a gang of terrorists who have taken over and hacked into the airport's security settings. They've gained the control to crash any plane that they want by pretending to be the tower. What they want is to safely free a terrorist leader who was set to land at the airport in a few hours. But they don't know that McClane is there, already famous for his stunt at Nakatomi Plaza. All in all, I'd say that this Die Hard film is pretty good. It could be better though. When you watch Die Hard 1 and 2 back to back, it's really easy to see that Die Hard 1 is more memorable because of Nakatomi Plaza. That was a very good use of production design because the skyscraper was always the second main character in the film. You always believe, either consciously or subconsciously, that it all took place right there. But you can't say the same about the airport. You can't, because there's not a ton of exterior shots of the airport. You get a lot of random interior shots in a lot of different areas of the airport, and because it's not as contained as a skyscraper where McClane's either on a random top floor or an elevator, you almost feel like this airport's like a city, because he's in this spot and then he's at that spot and then another spot over here. The bad guys are in a church. Now there's the airport tower, now there's the runway. There's a lot of these areas, and I didn't fully believe that they were always in the same spot, so production design isn't as good. Same with the character. John McClane was a better character in Die Hard 1 because he was more memorable from a visual and auditory standpoint. You recognized him not for just being Bruce Willis, but also because of that wife beater shirt, the fact that he was walking barefoot on glass, the duct tape with the guns on the back, all of that. In Die Hard 2, you know it's John McClane because it's Bruce Willis, but that's about it. Everything that made his character stand out in the first movie was gone here. He still had most of the auditory distinctions, like the sarcastic attitude and the catchphrase, so at least there is that. That being said, the first Die Hard film has a concept that has been done and redone a million times, to the point where if you saw Die Hard for the first time today, it would feel overdone already, even though it was mostly popularized at that point. There's a lot of different ways to approach the theme of one man against all odds, and the way it's been done the most is what they did in Die Hard 1. It was a little bit different in Die Hard 2 though. The technical side of things, about hacking into an airport database to control what the airplanes are doing in the sky, is honestly pretty original. It almost feels like a spy movie because of that. I'd say they copied off of themselves in a later Die Hard film and even upped the ante, but this felt rather tense and pretty believable for what it was. But then again, I don't think the villain was that strong. When you think back to all the villains in the previous Die Hard films, I think the only one that you'll really remember is Hans Gruber. You won't remember this Colonel William Stewart guy. He does a fine job, of course, but there's nothing about his character specifically that is very memorable, unfortunately. And it's like that over and over with this film. It's similar in structure to the first Die Hard film, but it's not as good in pretty much any department. I would say in a lot of ways it's close. I think a modern audience watching both first and second film would probably say that this movie feels more fresh and original than the first does, even though that's technically not true. It's a weird case because I do like it for what it is, but I think they took a couple of missteps here. If I were to make a sequel for a Die Hard film, I would have focused in on why somebody would want to see it. Are they watching it just for mindless action and quick-witted comebacks from Bruce Willis, or are they watching it to see character development from this character that they honestly loved the first time around? Because if you're just in it for the action, you'll probably really love the movie. Because yeah, there's a lot of good action in this movie. If you want to see it for an extension of the John McClane character, I don't think you really get that. It's the same character, just not as interesting. It's basically just Bruce Willis at this point, and it's not as distinct as his character was in the first film. Again, that could all just be me talking nonsense because I know there are huge fans of this movie too. Looking at the final score here, I would say that from an unbiased vantage point, the film mostly takes a few safe decisions. It was competent, but it didn't quite know how to take risks and build onto a franchise to make it that much different. So my unbiased score is 72%, but I still love it. I still have a great time with it in general, so my bias score is at 92%, averaging everything out to a final score of 82%, 82 out of 100 possible stars, granting Die Hard 2 with a letter grade of B-, which isn't terrible. In layman's terms, that simply means that the movie is good. It's just not as good as the first. But let me know your thoughts on Die Hard 2 in the comments down below. When looking at both the first and second film, which one do you prefer and why? Let me know. As for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button if you like this review, because there's more like it coming out. Hit the thumbs up button, because it always helps out my channel. And don't forget about the little bell icon, because that'll help notify you when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out!